Genshin 6.2's banners are looking stacked, so today I'm here to help you decide who to spend your precious Primo gems on. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. Let's kick things off with Durin. This character is genuinely fantastic and has very little flaws to speak of. He's a very good off-field pyro sub-DPS, meaning that anywhere where you need pyro application, you're going to be able to use Durin just fine. Not to mention, he's going to be very good with the newly introduced Hex and Zircle mechanics. Either he himself is able to be a pretty solid DPS using Mona or Fischl in an overload team, or you can choose to use him as a support for DPS Venti. Those are going to be his main use cases on release. There's also the Durin and Albedo combo, which is going to be a nice alternative Navia team. So, with that in mind, if you're interested in buffing up your Mondstadt characters, specifically the ones that are going to be experiencing Hex and Zircle buffs, then Durin's going to be a very good investment for you. He's also just a very healthy pull for an account in general, and he is the one not cry character where I would say, no matter what position your account is in, he is going to be a good investment. If you need a good pyro off-field sub-DPS, he is going to fill that role for you excellently, and is able to separate himself from Moika by specializing in on Mondstadt characters. Because that's another thing, he's able to act as a more than sufficient replacement for Moika as a pyro sub-DPS. And you may be wondering, why would I invest into Durin if I already have Moika? Well, there you go, Hex and Zircle mechanics. And we all know that Varka is from Mondstadt, and I would not be surprised at all if Durin ended up being his best in slot teammate down the line. So, because of that, I think that if you're interested in Varka, he's also a very good investment to make. But even on release, he's going to have a lot of use cases, he's going to be very powerful in the teams that he's a part of, and all around, this is a character that has so few flaws. They are genuinely dropping a bombshell of a unit here. It doesn't matter what direction your account has gone in, this character is going to be useful to you in one way or another, and as we all know, pyro-related reactions are very powerful, so for as long as those reactions are good, Durin's application is going to be very useful. Case in point, look at how valuable Xiangling was for such a long time just because she applied pyro, and of course there's Moika in the meta too. As for his flaws, he's obviously not going to be as strong as Moika, keep that in mind, and otherwise, you do ideally want to play him with another Mondstadt character. This shouldn't be too hard as you have a lot of options at your disposal, but even if you don't play him with another Mondstadt character, it's not really a deal breaker because he's still going to be a very strong unit. All around, a fantastic character that I can only recommend. He is easily going into S tier for the value rankings of this patch. Next up, we move on to Venti, a character that I never expected to be glazing in 2025. But here we are, to all my fellow Venti lovers who have suffered for so long, we have finally won. Hoyoverse has buffed Venti, and they've not only buffed him, they have turned him into the best Animo DPS. Okay, now let's hold on for a minute here. Best Animo DPS is great, but where does he really sit in relation to other DPSs? Okay, I'm gonna say this. For AoE content, Venti is undeniably going to be a ridiculous DPS, especially if he's able to take advantage of his mobbing capabilities, but otherwise in single target, obviously some other characters around his level are going to do better. I would say that he is most comparable to units like Arlecchino and Chaska in terms of damage performance. And in AoE situations, he's going to be better than Arla, but in single target, Arla is likely to be better in her best in slot team. So, consider that Arlecchino is a good DPS, and I'm focusing on damage here because we all know that Moika is obviously better than Arlecchino as a pyro DPS, but if we're just looking at damage, Venti sits around at Arla's level, and Arla is still a very competent, powerful DPS. And in AoE, I expect Venti to be better than her, and in single target, the other way around. So I think that as a DPS in general, Venti is being turned into someone very competent, and then as an Animo DPS, he's going to be the best bet. Now, I personally think that eventually whenever we get Varka, he's likely to take over. However, consider this. Venti is also going to be a really good Animo DPS support, because if the on-field character is able to trigger Swirl, he's going to be able to increase their damage, which is very, very nifty. So, because we know that Varka is Animo, well, I'm pretty sure we can put 2 and 2 together and realize that Durin and Venti are going to be very good teammates for him. So once again, if you're interested in Varka, who is likely going to be an even stronger DPS than Venti if he ends up being a DPS, well then Venti is going to be a very good investment for you. Yes, we live in a day and age where Venti is actually a wise and smart investment to make. Definitely a weird timeline, but one that I am more than happy to be a part of. He's also getting a new signature weapon, which yes, is going to be very much worth your investment, especially considering that Durin's weapon is going to be on the same banner. And because those two have teams together, and they're likely going to get more teams in the future, yes, good weapon banner to pull on. If you lose to Durin's weapon, it's all good. And I should also add that if you're pulling for Durin, he is likely to become DPS Venti's best in slot support, so there's also that as well. These Hex and Zircle buffs really helped out Venti's value, and I think that on the whole, he's not necessarily a must pull, and yes, he is indeed an Archon, but it's not like a new Archon release. I would say that if you already have Venti, and you've already invested in him ages ago, yes, he is 100% worth reviving on your account. I should also add that especially if you're pulling for Vorka, he is even more worth the investment. You can very much skip out on this, you don't have to invest into Venti, because like I said, he's the best Animo DPS, but in general, he's still only going to be a decent good DPS around Arla's level, likely better in AoE. But if you're a Venti fan, someone who likes collecting a DPS of every element, or somebody that's eventually going to invest into Vorka or just more Hex and Zircle characters in general, yes, Venti is extremely worth your time. Now, as for other Animo DPSs, Chaska doesn't really deal Animo damage, and with Xiao, as much as I would like them to work together, consider that Farazan and Xian Yun are two very good members of Xiao's team, and Bennett isn't getting any Hex and Zircle buffs, another character that can potentially work with Xiao, so I personally don't think that Venti's gonna be best in slot with him, as sad as that is. I will see if there's any teams where they are viable together, because before it was just kind of copium. There might be a way, but I would say don't count on it, but I'll see what I can cook up. Either way, he's going into A tier for the value rankings of this patch. A great investment to make, but not a necessary investment. Either way, Hoyoverse definitely fixed a lot of his core issues, and now he's actually worth investing into. Next up is Xilonen. So, I will say this. She is definitely currently one of the best characters in the game, but I'm not going to be crazy and say, oh, she deserves her own tier, she is this absolute must-pull of all time, because she doesn't really work with the new Nordcry characters that well. She doesn't really naturally fit into Flynn's teams that well, neither does she fit into the Nordcry Bloom duo. I think that going forward, Xilonen is kind of just going to continue not really being a part of the newest best teams, but the reason that I still think she's a very good unit is because she is absolutely fantastic for Moika, and she is still good for basically every other DPS that doesn't use Nordcry characters. She's not fitting into newer teams, but might I remind you that Moika is still the best DPS in the game and she works there, and she is all around still a very good addition to your account. I would say that she's 100% worth investing in, because while we are very much getting Nordcry specific characters right now, and there's not really much that she can offer to Moonglare units, I believe that once the Moonglare glaze ends and we return to a more versatile meta structure, Xilonen is going to shine again, and even right now she still has plenty of teams in which she is good. I would say she is 100% still a very good investment to make. All around, she is a very efficient teammate, she gets the job done just fine, very nice sustain, very nice buffing, damage bonus from the set, res shred from her kicks. What she offers is straightforward and excellent. So all around, she is very good for a multitude of teams, and is all around a very safe pickup. I would just say that if you're really invested in Moonglare units at the minute, and you're really investing heavily into Nordcry characters, then I'd say that Xilonen is honestly skippable for you, but she is very strong, and I don't really want to suggest that she's not really all that, because she is a very good unit. I'm just saying that depending on what direction you're taking your account, you can actually miss out on her this time, but she's a very good general addition to any account. Definitely going into S tier for the value rankings of this patch. Then we have Varesa. She is a very good Electro DPS. Now, I will say that Flynn's exists, and Flynn's is better than Varesa, so if you already have an invested Flynn's with an Effa, then I wouldn't really feel the need to invest into Varesa in your position. You can still get her as she's very good in different teams, and she's very good in Overload, for example, and she is still a top-tier DPS, very, very powerful, but if you already have Flynn's, not really necessary. Now, if you don't have Flynn's, then she's a fantastic pickup and one of the strongest DPSs that we have available to us at the minute. Keep in mind that the Overload team does want constellations, especially Chevreuse, so it's not like she is completely cheap and free-to-play friendly. Eon-san also ideally wants constellations, but if you're able to manage that, and even just a couple of cons, then she is pretty good. All around, I would say that she is a good character to invest into, but once again, if you're investing into Moonglare units, I'd say she is indeed very skippable, especially if you already have Flynn's. She is very strong, and I should add that she is a better DPS than Venti, for instance, so if you're after damage, then she is a very good pickup. I just don't want to necessarily oversell her because we do have a better Electro DPS at the minute, and while you could argue he's only better with an Effa, sure, but Chevreuse and the Ansan 1 constellations. 4-star constellations, do I need to say more, and you also ideally want Moika in that team. She is very good though, and I think that she is a safe investment. Just not somebody that you need if you already have plenty of good DPSs. She's going into A tier for the value rankings of this patch. She is a fantastic unit, I don't want to undersell her too much. It's just hard to put her in S when we literally have Xilonen and Durin releasing in this patch. Then we have Jahoda. So she is a pretty simple healer for Animo. This makes her pretty nice for Enephalus Flynn's players because finally there is a nice source of sustain in that team, and she's also going to end up being good for Nafer considering that she has an EM buff in her kit. She's going to be pretty nice in that aspect. I wouldn't really say this is a character that you absolutely must chase after, and it's not going to be the end of the world if you can't get her. However, she's a nice addition to your account, and she is good for some particular use cases if you're lacking budget options in some areas, but otherwise, I wouldn't really say that she's anything special. She's going into B tier for the value rankings of this patch. Not a bad unit, she's just not particularly remarkable. This is an amazing patch, banners-wise. I am very pleased with the Venti buffs. All around, there is something for everyone here, plenty of broken supports up for grabs, and if anybody else is like me and you're absolutely head over heels for Varka, well, we're gonna have to look into getting Durin and perhaps investing more into our Ventis, which I am happy about. I like those characters a lot. So all around, thank you Hoyoverse for the Venti buffs, I am still not over them. And all around, you can't really go wrong. This patch only has good characters on banners. Hopefully this video was able to tell you who to spend your precious Primo Gems on in Genshin version 6.2. This has been Juice, signing out, and I can't wait to pull for Venti's third signature weapon by this point.